everyone, welcome back to the HS Tech Show. Let's rock and roll. Today, we're going to explore Obsolete Networking Part 2. This is the sequel to the OfficeVision, I guess you could call it a demo or whatever. This is intended to provide another look at the OfficeVision system, except we're going to look at this with another example of a multi-protocol network, something you would see back in the day. Now, I was told that IBM had a lot of OS2 machines that would use SNA to talk into mainframes. So this is what I have here. I'm not going to restart Communications Manager because it's an absolute nightmare to get it connected. For those following along at home, this is what you need to do. You need to actually dial the workstation from your mainframe, so not super helpful. But this machine is modeled after what I have been told IBM would have used internally for SNA workstations. So it's a PC, we're running OS2, specifically we're running the multiprocessor version of OS2. I've messed around with this a lot, and you've probably seen some of my videos on it, but it was just whatever I had on short reach, and it just happens to be a relatively easy version of OS2 to install. And then I installed Communications Manager 2, this is version 1.1. The reason that this version is interesting is because this is the version that you use with an IBM P390, and that's why I have it. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick run through of what the setup dialog looks like, just so you know kind of what we're getting into here. So do the old configure any profiler feature. Here's our Ethernet adapter. Okay, everyone knows this. Set your connections. Actually, before we do that, set your local node characteristics, so network ID and any unique control point name. Set your node alias name to the same thing. You want to be an end node. You don't have a network node server, at least I don't. Here's your connection. I only have a host connection, so specified as Ethernet. And then this right here, you have to byte swap the address. And the way that this is done is basically like this. So, for instance, here's a Cisco router, AA0040006404. You probably know this address format. This is equivalent to the DECnet address 1.100. So you first need to reverse the bytes, and then you have to essentially change the bitness of them. You can do this on paper, but if you come over here and you don't know the translation, you hit help, it'll tell you the number mapping and it'll tell you how to do it. In this case, this was what I got for my mainframe's SNA address. So there you go. Define partner LUs, don't do this from here. And once you've done that, SNA features, this is where you define like AppC stuff. Now this does not support AppC like newer communications managers does, so just watch out for that. So if you try to come over here and define transaction programs and realize they're complaining about a CPIC error, don't worry with it. That's pretty standard. Alright, 3270 emulation. I have two display logical units and a printer logical unit. We're going to get all of this to work, and it's going to be a little bit crusty to do that, but we're going to get there. Alright, let's get out of the setup program, and I do have 2 sessions up, but I'm only going to use one for this. And let's go ahead and log in. So, it works more or less about like what you would expect. Oh, looks like I'm already logged in from my laptop. Well, specifically I'm logged in from an MVS machine over SNA. Alright, and go ahead and spin up OfficeVision, open our mail. I've just been goofing around with this, as you can see, so everything's good. We're good here, and we're going to cover quite a bit of stuff. We're going to have OfficeVision talking into Microsoft Exchange, and that particular machine is going to be responsible for gating us to and from a Microsoft Mail network, which is the primary thing I'm going to discuss here. So let me kick off some other virtual machines. I'm going to kick off that same virtual machine as last time. It is a Windows 3.1 plus NetWare client VM, so we're going to let that come up. And I'm also going to kick off another equivalent VM, except we're going to mainly use DOS for this one. And this is a VM that has been configured with the client from Microsoft Networks. In case you're wondering where it is, I'll show you in a second. Do Windows NT 4 server. Hold on a second, I need to log in. I'm not going to currently log in. Stick in the Windows NT 4 server CD. There's a client dir, and there's a couple. You've got LAN Manager for DOS, LAN Manager for OS2, and MS Client. MS Client's the one you want. RAS, this is standalone for I believe it's for Windows 95, so we're not really concerned about that one. And then RPL is the NetBEUI client. TCP32WFW is TCP/IP for Windows for Workgroups. Update.wfw is updates for Windows for Workgroups, and 195 is the standalone improved upgrade client for Windows 95 that allows you to talk into a domain. So we're not going to sit here and bother with this, and I'm going to eject that CD because if I reboot, it's going to scream. And we're going to do net logon, my username, and my domain name. Now, if I fire up Wireshark, you'll be able to see all of this working. So let me get that started here. And if I can dismiss all the dialogues that this thing spits out. We're filtering for NetBIOS. And in the background, okay, we will respond to that later. I'm going to go ahead and log in here. So type your password. It's going to ask for it twice. So this is my normal password. And actually, no, it doesn't do it twice because I did a password file, so it saves it. And then I automatically mounted 2 drives. Note these 2 drives. Drive M is mounted to a share called mail data. Drive Z is mounted to a share called mailcli. Okay, this is the Microsoft Mail stuff. Now, if I do a NetBEUI NT4 server, which is like my NT4 primary domain controller plus Exchange server plus SNA server plus like 700 other things, you'll see that I have a couple of useful things. Mail exe contains the administration tools. So we're going to do net use y NT4 server mail exe. Okay, and we can run the admin tool on here if we want. But drive M contains the Microsoft Mail post office. Now, Microsoft Mail is different from other mail services that you may be used to, like maybe you've ran like an XMTP, IMAP, non-Microsoft Mail style, UNIX style mail system. You're probably familiar with how that works and how it's not exactly a shared drive that provides the mail services itself. But this is literally what this is. The thing is reasonably secure, but it communicates literally via a shared drive. So you can store the Microsoft Mail post office on a NetWare machine, a Windows machine, OS2, PathWorks. Probably wondering what the heck is PathWorks. Well, it's basically a Windows server emulator for OpenVMS and digital Unix. I've made a video on it once, but this works just like this. If I go to Drive Z, I can run mail, and it's going to default to, in this case, Drive M. And it's going to say, what's your mailbox? In other words, what's your username? So I'll go ahead and punch in my username, punch in my password, and it's going to add a name, which the sole purpose of this is that the MTA, the message transfer agent, which we will look at in a second, is going to call out to us when we have new mail, but that doesn't actually work. So, all right, we're going to pop a pin in this, and we're going to queue up that other VM here. Yes, I do want to load the LAN support software, and all I need is TCP/IP. So I'm just using this for TCP/IP, but for fun, we can log in. In case you're wondering how you log in on a NetWare machine, whenever you attach to a server, this drive F is the sys login directory, and it provides the login program. That's right, the login program is not on the client, it's on the server. And if I sit here and do, actually, I already took it away. Nope, there it is. Drive F, you can see this is the root directory of, well, now it's the root directory of sys. Because if I do a directory, you can see there it is. But when you attach to the server, it makes you look at login. And so this has like login and other EXEs are elsewhere on the system. All right, but I don't actually need this. This was just an example. In case you're wondering how you map a drive, it's literally the map command. So do map something like v equals the server name, so netware 4, and then underscore the volume name. So there you go. So now I have a shared drive, but we don't care about this. We just need Windows. And you can see just briefly there for a second that came up and ran. So we're going to open the Exchange client, and this is going to speak to my Exchange server, and I have a ton of emails that I need to get rid of because there's so many of them, and they are all going to just make our life difficult. So, all right, we have our Microsoft Exchange client ready, and we have our Microsoft Mail client ready. Now, we need to also take a look at the server side of things. So I have, by virtue of the worst hypervisor I've ever used, QEMU, I have this Windows NT4 server. So we're going to go ahead and pull that up. And this is the Microsoft Mail MTA. Now I'm going to show you the server side for those shared directories. So on drive D, you can see here's the 3 shared directories. Here's mail data. This is the actual post office. Mail.exe, of course, contains admin.exe, which you can run from the clients, or you can run on here, it's fine. And mail client contains the actual client programs. It does not contain the Windows client program, because guess what? That's built straight into Windows. So if we get tired of using this, which we will eventually get tired of using this, we will be able to supplement it with something a little bit more advanced. But what we're going to do now is we are going to do some cross-system mailing. So I am going to load up a UNIX machine here. So I'm going to queue up a telnet shell to a UNIXware 7 machine that I have here, just a demonstration system I've got kicking around. And I have a dummy local domain suffix that everything sits on, so I can ping. I think I can ping. I do have ping. You'd be surprised. Some Unixes don't allow you to run ping as a normal user. This is the mail server, and it does DNS lookup, so we're good to go. Alright, well, I can't even type clear. That's fine. We are now able to pretty much do anything you'd normally expect. So if I come over here and I mail, and remember, this client is speaking native Exchange, okay? So we have Exchange, and we have Microsoft Mail running on the same machine. This would be the equivalent of 2 different mail servers running on the same machine. And as far as this machine is concerned, it's an entirely different system. And if I fire up the Exchange admin here, you'll see how this works. So here's our CC Mail connector that we're not using. We will look at that someday though. Here's our OfficeVision connector. So there you go. This is tied into that mainframe system that we were looking at a moment ago. For those of us that can use the right host name. There it is. So connect, SNA and JE, LU name, and the log mode. This is not an SNA tutorial, but there you go. It's the same stuff you'd expect. We no longer need this, so I'm going to get rid of that. And for the most part, this is the same thing I demonstrated last time. It's not the worst thing in the world to set up. If you're good at SNA, you're good at OfficeVision, you're good at Exchange, you can get it going in about 5 minutes. Here is my SMTP relay, and here's my Microsoft Mail relay. So the local post office that it has mounted, this shows up as MailCli $. Alright, so if I open up a command line, and I hate how this mouse cursor is relative, but I guess that's par for the course for VNC, I do a net share, you'll see that there is a shared directory here called MailCli mail.dat $. There it is. So this right here is the virtualized post office for Microsoft Mail that the Exchange server is emulating. This is mapped as drive in. So if I do net use, you'll see that I have 2 drives connected that basically just remaps a directory as a local drive. You can actually leverage this client to mount arbitrary directories as your own local share. It's pretty useful stuff. I'm sorry, your own local drive. You can kind of do some clever stuff with it, but that's essentially what I'm doing here, because you're supposed to run the MTA on another machine, but that's fine. So the external MTA is using drives M and drives N. Drive M is the actual real Microsoft Mail post office. Drive N is the Exchange emulated Microsoft Mail post office. And you can see that this server is aware of, as far as it knows, a mailbox named MSMail NT4, which is the Drive M shared post office that this runs. So I'm going to go to mail.exe. Actually, I'll do it over here so it's a little bit easier to read, and it's also cooler. So we have drive Y. This is going to contain the admin program, so we're going to log in as admin. The administrative module. This is where you need to specify your admin, so we're going to log in as admin. And this will now allow us to sit here and configure users and passwords. So I can modify users. So of course admin has a mailbox because that's who we're using, and then I have a mailbox on here. This mailbox here is what we were browsing earlier with the end user client. External admin, this right here shows all of the other remote nodes that we know about. So the remote network name, HSNET, and then the remote post office. We only know about one other post office, and that's NT4 domain. And if you come over here and you examine the local post office here, you'll see this is the name of this local post office, okay? And I can add a bunch of known names that this MS mail system knows about on this remote post office. Even though they're running on the same machine, they are wildly different systems, to say the least. Here is the known post office. It is a direct connection via an MS-DOS drive. In other words, this is referring to what the MTA knows about. The MTA has a direct connection via MS-DOS drives, as opposed to modems. So that's all I need to know about the admin tool. And if I rerun mail, we will then, in theory, be able to email a variety of other systems. So we're going to add our own name to NetBEUI here. We're going to compose, and we are going to, I'm just going to hand type an address. So actually, you have to select it from the list. That's right. So on the local post office, we're going to send this to us. Now the full effective equivalent path of this is HSNET /NT4 domain /WEC. Okay, so that's me. So oops. Okay, I do not want to do this. Press Control Enter to clear the addresses. Pretty easy stuff. If I back out all the way, you can push the left and right arrows to kind of navigate through this weird menu. If this menu is foreign to a Microsoft product, it's because I don't think they wrote it. But on the post office address list, this is like who we know about on this machine. There I am. On the network list, we can specify to send this email to some other user on this, because this is the only other node that this particular MS mail system knows about. So it's pretty easy stuff. But otherwise, you would simply just specify this here. Okay, so here is my full path to my name, and this is just an alias, and this is something you set up. So once you start typing a name, I'll say, do you want to say this is an alias? Yes. So here's my address type. This is, of course, not something you can change. Here's the mailbox on this post office on this network, and they go in backwards order when you write the address. Pretty weird stuff. So this is who we're going to send this to. This is going to be a loopback. Okay, why do I keep doing that? Probably because I keep accidentally typing this. There we go. Okay, so the subject, loopback, and then the body. Okay, then you hit escape and you do transmit, and then it's okay to transmit, and then boom, we've already got it. So you come down here and hit read, and there it is. Pretty simple stuff. And then when you're done, hit escape, escape again, delete, delete, boom. Great. That's not too terrible. Now, what else can we do? Can we mail users at remote systems? Yes, we can. We can mail through MS Mail, and it will show up on Exchange. So we can compose to, except this time we're going to go back up. We're going to go to the network list, and on this NT4 domain, remember, we're logged in as test user over here on this Exchange client, so we're going to mail test user. Subject from MS Mail. Okay, and then this is an email that I am sending myself from MS Mail, which will go through the MTA. Okay, and then transmit. Now, at this point, the mail is sitting in the outbox queue, and whenever the MTA decides to run, because the MTA runs every minute, that's how it is. That's the thing about MS Mails. The whole thing is asynchronous. So if you have, for example, modem dials, it will check the local mail spool for any remote mail, and see, there you go, it just got it, and so it delivered yet another message, and so it's delivering it, and then here it is. Now, when I double click this, you're going to see something pretty interesting. Now, when I do this, I should show you my own recipient, but actually there's no point in doing it because my email address on MS Mail is hsnet /nt4 domain /wec. This is my remote mailbox on this MS Mail system here. In hindsight, I probably should have used a different username. And if I double click this, you can see that it's an MS Mail format address. And I can add this to my address book if I would like to do so. Now I can reply to this and say, this is a reply from MS Mail. And I can send that off. Now at the same time, I can come over here and I can mail WC at actually test user at int4 domain. Actually, that is not the correct TLD or correct hostname to use there. Okay, and then dot on a blank line, or Control D because this is the System 5 mailer. And then in just a hot second, we, in theory, should get it. Assuming that send mail on this machine is working. And we can't run mail queue because we're not super user. But eventually this will deliver in, if all is well. I might have a domain resolution problem. Oh my gosh, I do. Okay, yeah, so it's never going to go through. Where the heck is the mail queue command on here? Oh well, that's fine. We know that that's not going to go through, but we can try that again now. Alright, and hopefully that will go through. Now that it can actually do an MX record lookup on my dummy DNS server. That's a real problem that you actually have to deal with. So while we, in theory, wait on this to come through, we can come over here and send us some more email. But why would we want to do that when we can actually forward this email? Yeah, this is where it gets fun. Let's say that this was something important. Actually, let's do a fake scenario. Let's play a character here. Let us compose an email to, and I'm noticing that SMTP email isn't coming in, so we probably need to use a different machine for this. Let's come up with a fake scenario. Okay, that is definitely not the correct address. Let's see, let's Control Enter that away. There we go. And we're gonna come up with a fake scenario here. How about business report? I feel so studious with this one. Hello, demonstrator. Can you please check the general ledger in file cabinet 6 of 5 folder 2? Thanks, boss. Okay, this is really entertaining, isn't it? All right, so we're going to transmit this, and this is going to queue this up. And then this other business person here is going to respond to this email, but also forward it off to an OfficeVision user. And then we're going to get SMTP into the mix, thanks to OfficeVision, and then we're gonna basically try to do every possible protocol that this thing currently speaks, besides Lotus Notes, because I don't have a ancient Lotus Notes client that will work for this demonstration. But all right, this is absolutely not working. So let us queue up a different machine here. Okie dokie. There we go. Alright, so we have a known working machine that can do SMTP. Alright, so here's our business report. I'm going to reply and say, sorry, this is not my job. And at the same point, I'm going to forward this to my user at OfficeVision, and it's in theory that this should work because I have this address aliased. If it doesn't, it's going to prompt us to create a new address. Hello, other person. Can you do this? Demonstrator. That's right, I'm playing the demonstrator for this one. Alright, and then when we come over here and we bring this up, you're going to see that right off the bat. This was basically instantaneous. So I can come over here and I will be prompted to answer this. So I can route this to WEC at BSD server, which is my time sharing machine, and say, can you figure this out? And I'll send it off. So this is transmitting via SMTP, and at the same point, we're going to reply. We're going to do the same thing we did on Exchange. I'm going to say, I sent this to the right person. All right, send that off. And we're really taking care of business over here. I mean, this is completely usable even today. And here we go. This looks good, and we're going to forward this off to the MS Mail user. I am getting it handled. Alright, and we shall send that off, and in theory it will take, and we can come over here and we can stare at the MTA, and ooh, it looks like we just hit the dispatch. Of course we need to come over here and we need to update, but this is ridiculous. I want a GUI. So let's get out of this stupid DOS program. Let's load up Windows. And because we already are running the network client from DOS, we don't actually have to do anything difficult here. As a matter of fact, if you're going to believe this, Windows is not even aware that I have a network. And I hate how jumpy the cursor is on Windows 3.1. See, no support for networks. As much as I absolutely despise Windows 3.1 and would absolutely love to run Windows NT, I'm much too lazy to set that VM up. So we're going to load up Mail, and this is the exact same thing. So we're going to log in to my mailbox here, and now we have a beautiful GUI. Now, unfortunately, this is kind of laughably out of date, so I have no idea why none of this is accurate. These were my tests from last night. Ah, yes. There we go. Alright, so now apparently we're pulling in. Even then, I don't know why this client sucks so bad. To be honest, I don't think... Oh, finally. So we just finally got that one. Yeah, this is working pretty pitifully. Yeah, you can see how much work I was getting done here. Oh, okay, now they're coming in. Wow, okay, it's about time. Alright, so, sorry, this is not my job. And then over here, so you can see that I'm getting this sent to the right person. So even in this email here, we've got MS Mail addresses and we've got OfficeVision addresses. You can see the classic prof's note format there. It's pretty much what you would expect. And at this point, we will come over here and we have our mail waiting for us. So this will be the person who actually does the replying. So if I was feeling fancy, I would use the RAND mail handler. I don't know if you're familiar with the RAND mail handler, but the MH utilities, it's like the most UNIX mail client you've ever seen in your life. The mail client is comprised of a bunch of small programs, and it's pretty difficult. I'll probably make a full tutorial on it someday, but it was one of the first large-scale UNIX mail programs that isn't this program called Mail. Alright, so when we reply, we don't actually include the full message body because that's just how MailX works, and that's the name of this program, MailX. So we're going to say, okay, the balance we have is, I'm going to use my actual balance, $0 million. Thank you, dot. And of course, we loop that mail back to ourselves for some reason. Alright, simple as, and that's all it took. And we can come over here and we can find the right client somewhere amongst the mix, and in theory we should get some bounce back and it should come in. And I think I may have, oh yeah, that's right, I'm looking for the wrong, sorry, I almost pushed my table over there. In theory we have a mail waiting for us, so we can come over here and this is it. So we got, of course, the spam that you'd expect with OfficeVision, and yeah, okay. Well, SMTP, all of the SMTP headers get displayed on OfficeVision, so we're going to route this to NT4 serve test user. Okay, and there you go. All right, and we're going to send it off. So we're good to send that. So your mail has been sent. All right, wonderful. Now, over here, you can see we got it. And so our balance was $0 million. We got to submit that back to the other guy. So we're going to do HSNET slash MSMailNT4. And the username, of course, is test user. And say, there you go. You're so welcome, ma'am. And I'm sure she'll be very happy to receive that. And whenever the MTA decides to hit, which is to say not very often, yeah, man, I'm pumping 16 kilobytes of messages. That's like the most I've ever pumped on this. I gotta say, it is a lot of fun to sit here and just send emails around for fake scenarios. Oops, I pressed the wrong key. I keep forgetting that escape is the break key. pause break is the clear key. And while we sit and wait on this, looks like the next dispatch is at 10:20. Oh, we're so close. Oh, it's always about that much. And that's the problem with this too, is it doesn't constantly dispatch, and because of that, you kind of have to wait around a while. And in the real world, like I said earlier, this could be doing dial-up links. Those could take an appreciable amount of time. So it's all about trade-offs, that's for sure. Alright, so there we go. Mail has been spooled. Now we got to get this stupid client to learn from its mistake and refresh. Unfortunately, there is no manual rescan function, which is kind of terrible, I think. But you can come over here to options and you can change the poll interval, so it's going to poll every minute. Oh my gosh, I hate how it does this. What this does is basically saying copy all the messages into this file, which I think is egregious. So we're not going to bother with this anymore. We're just going to go back to the DOS client, which is probably what you were using anyways. And so there you go. So it's a forward of a forward. So we can read this, and there we go. Miss Demonstrator here was very proud that she finally got her email answered. So there you go. It's pretty simple stuff, I would say. It's not the end of the world, and it's not too terribly hard to use, but we can do other interesting things with OfficeVision as well. Now, this is a fully equipped SNA workstation. We have a printer at our disposal. I know, imagine that. Well, we kind of have a printer. We actually need to make it available. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drag these 3270s out of here. I really wish I would use, or I wish I could use a better screen resolution. I can't. This is 640 by 480, and that's like awful because this is completely unrepresentative of a real machine, which kind of sucks. But this printer here, if we open the settings for this object, in case you're wondering how to create a new printer on OS2, you come over here to printer and you drag it out. Network printer is the exact same thing, except we can get really dang creative, and we don't even need this. This is considered a locally attached printer. And you're going to get a kick out of this. The output isn't to LPT3. Now, I don't have an LPT3. I don't have any ports. I only have COM 1 and 2 because this is a virtual machine. We can load up a command prompt, an OS2 window, and we can log on /v domain. And so we can log into a Windows 2000 domain, which I know this is like amazingly crazy. Yes, it actually does work because Windows 2000 supports LAN Manager 1 and 2 version logon requests, which is what OS2's LAN Server emulates, and basically everything else. By the way, this also works with Samba. If you have a Samba domain controller that's running at an NT40 level, this works. So you can use the DOS, Windows, OS2, pretty much any old LAN Manager compatible client will work with a new version of Samba. You just have to set your settings right, and one day I'll probably talk about how to do that, or at least publicize some information somewhere. So we sit around and we wait on the login, which takes forever. Okay. Maybe I should type my right password in? Maybe that will work. If this doesn't work, it's because I need to reboot the server. Which I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. As a matter of fact, I think that's probably the issue. It's dead in the water. Oh boy. An average day here with junk that doesn't work. Oh yeah. Oh, the DNS server log is full. Oh, wow, that's terrible. Alright. Yeah, I am not surprised at all. Nor do I really care. Okay, restart. Alright, login intent was unsuccessful, so it is timing out. So we're going to log into a different domain name. We'll log into that NT4 domain. And this should hit pretty quick. If it doesn't hit, then we're just not going to do a domain login at all. And of course, we logged in successfully. Your user ID can't receive messages. This was an extension of OS2's LAN server. So if you log into an OS2 LAN server domain, you will be able to receive messages because OS2 has a slightly modified version of the net pop-up system. And I believe we can also browse the network graphically. So we can do LAN Server Resource Browser, which, okay, never mind. That doesn't work at all. I don't know why I have so many icons stacked on top of this. That's the most OS2 thing ever. Stack all your icons on one place. I do have the LAN Server admin tool, but this isn't actually going to do anything because I don't believe I have admin rights on this domain. Okay, I can see my own account, but that's it. I don't have admin rights on a domain. I'm not an admin. But this will work, believe it or not. That will actually seriously work. Okay, what else? What other chunk do I have on here? Okay, just nothing else of interest. But we don't have an LPT3, but I can actually use this as a redirector. So I can do NetBEUI NT4 server. And you can see, oh, I don't have any printers on here. I do have this machine, which, to be honest, is probably not responding to requests. Oh no, I'm being denied access. It's kind of strange. This is what that error means. I probably broke the domain trust at some point, and this machine needs to hurry up and get booted back up. The curse of rebooting a domain controller is that it takes like 700 years for it to come up. In the interim, I bet I can fix my domain trust issues by relogging over here. Okay, yeah, it has completely lost communication to the domain controller. I know what happened. I screwed up last night, and I had a MAC address overlap. I was playing around with DECnet, and all of these machines also speak DECnet. I'll probably demonstrate that at some point, but while we wait on our stupid domain controllers to, well, at least a domain controller to reboot, here's my lowest node server, but unfortunately we've got to shut this down. I was configuring the, I guess you could say the exchange relay system. Didn't work. I'm gonna have to put some work in on that one. So the exchange notes relay is what that was, in case it wasn't obvious. It's pretty neat doohickey, but it's really tricky to set up. Lotus Notes is a terrible system in general, but that's fine. It was common back in the day, so we have to respect it. What I'm trying to do is mount a shared printer, though. Now, I do have an old print server that's driving 2 dot matrix printers. And of course, it doesn't require any authentication at all. So there you go. It's a Netgear PS111 or something like that. You can get them pretty cheap on eBay. It's a pretty useful, nice little box that you can get. 2 parallel ports and speaks every protocol under the sun, including NetBEUI and IPX. What I'm trying to demonstrate here, though, is SNA printing. So before we do this, I'm going to show you some terminals on VMCMS. So actually, by virtue of this system, we shall browse the SNA configuration. And I'll show you how this is done. And, that's right, backspace doesn't actually do anything useful. As usual, okay. And there goes my control key popping off again. Alright, so we are going to look for OS2 SMP-PU. Alright, so here's what you need to get this to work. Do not solicit CP to CP sessions. Do not specify contype equals appin, even though it will do an appin connection. It's not strictly necessary. Remote control point name, there you go. You do want to be able to dynamically define LUs. Sometimes that's not necessary, but in this case, it was necessary. Here's the logon screen to show terminals. That's what this is. Here's the remote MAC address, so 0004. This doesn't mean anything. 04 is the SAP number. If you don't know what the SAP number is, if I fire up Wireshark and I filter for LLC and I start capturing, you will eventually see, okay, that's enough. You will eventually see, okay, that's Apple Talk. Okay, I didn't catch any. Oops. I don't know who's trying to do a bunch of, okay, alright, there we go. Alright, we got one. Ethernet, this is the Apollo domain protocol, and this is Xerox NS. But down here, okay, did my capture filter didn't take it all. Oh well. Can't say I'm surprised, but this right here, in a logical link control packet, the SAP number, this is it. In this case, this right here is actually our DOS virtual machine that's basically just doing like a, hey, I'm still alive. This is basically the equivalent of like a TCP ACK for NetBEUI. So, in case you didn't know, when you're actually using NetBIOS and legitimately using NetBIOS to actually do something useful, and you're not sending out broadcast frames are always going to be func equals UI. This is basically like a dummy datagram. If I filter for NetBIOS here, and then I rerun this capture here, and on, actually this machine will work here, net use z, and I need to find some kind of share, so I will do, yeah, that's right, net use m. Let's see, how about NT4 server / mail data? This is just a good example. And then I just access some stuff here. And when I come over here and I examine this here and I filter for LLC, you're gonna have to apologize. There's a lot of other packets use LLC encapsulation. But in the case of that running session there, down here, this right here is like a running NetBIOS over LLC, sometimes called NetBEUI, NetBIOS user interface. So here, we were mounting this here, so we're mounting mail data, okay. And this right here has an NR and NS. If you're familiar with X25, these are basically your sequence numbers, and this is literally the same thing as a sequence number in TCP, all right? So here's the LLC equivalent of the TCP ACK, so okay, that's good. Keep going, all right? So boom, 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 boom. And there you go. But the SAP numbers here specify essentially the protocol. So whenever you have like an SNA keep alive, which there may be one somewhere around here, we may get lucky, possibly. I'll tell you what, we can rectify this right quick. I do not need to save. Let's apply the capture filter here. And if I just come over here and I scroll a little bit, and then I hit stop, the SAP number used here is 4. Now these SAP numbers can range. The adapter is generally configured to use 4. That's like the low-key standard, but you may have a difference. So that's what that means. A lot of people get confused on what the heck a SAP number is. There you go. And then here are our terminal LUs. So we currently have 2 terminal LUs. So this is terminal 1, this is terminal 2. And then there's the associated LU name, and finally, I think that other machine's rebooting. This right here, this is for LU 6.2 AppC, and this down here is a printer, okay? So to get a printer to do anything, you have it defined as some LU. So in my session manager, which is, there we go, OS2 SMP6, so logical unit 6, this is a printer session. There it is, there's this is called the NAU number. So if you ever see that in the communications manager configuration, you know what that is. Mode tab, RCS tab, you need to assemble this and load it into your VTAM library. Log mode, RCS print 1, and then the log application. In other words, whenever this LU comes up, use this log mode and log on to this application here, which in this case is RSCS. So here's my RSCS. If I do RCSQ OS2 SMP6, this is an SNA 3270 printer. This is the LU name. There's the log mode, form, standard. We're good. Now that I, in theory, have a bunch of machines that have successfully rebooted, which, okay, this machine is still not rebooting. That is a problem. This machine is probably puking because it's got a bunch of full log files, but we do have this machine running here. So I will switch back over to my command line, netview nt4 entsrv, and there we go. I'm going to mount a printer labeled laser. So I'm going to do net use lpt3 nt4 entserv laser. Now this just mapped printer lpt3. Like you literally uses a fake printer for it. And there it is. Sorry, I need to up in the settings for that. There it is. This will work, but we can also just straight up create a real network printer, which is probably the smart thing to do. So the network type, LAN server, I have no idea if this is going to work. Sometimes you can click down and it will properly browse the network, but usually what it ends up doing is just spamming out a lot of like get next node name in the domain, and so maybe we'll be able to catch them. I don't guess so. Oh well, that's alright. Didn't expect it to work anyways. It usually doesn't work, and great. Now we gotta sit and wait on this crap. Please do not crash. Oh my gosh. Welcome to the OS2 experience. Let me try to do anything with networking, it pukes. Okay, holy smokes, we're saved. Alright, well, we're not going to even dare use this. NT4, NT-serve, laser. Really? Oh, right. Yep. That is, in fact, it. Yeah, so, sure enough, it's going to... We gotta specify a printer driver, so we're gonna do generic PostScript printer. No, I'd like to not replace the driver, so there we go, we have an installed printer. Easy as that. So, yay. Oh, the printer configuration could not be established, probably because I already have it defined here, and the LAN manager knows that this is like already used. So it assigns it a high port number like LPT99 or something, and then that's how it works. But you can literally like redirect a local printer just like that. That's why on DOS the LAN manager client is often called the redirector, and you can see that if you run setup on the LAN manager client. But I can now print stuff. So let me get out of here. Okay, I do not need this. So qquit office, and aside the point, Lisa, I know you asked for this profile xedit. I did send it to you. Have fun. Alright, Office, and we're going to do something useful with our time. Actually, we're going to use Office 2. Ooh, yeah, look at this. In case you didn't know, there's a secret other OfficeVision menu that's somewhat similar to, like, I was told OfficeVision 400 looks like this. I don't know. Alright, so decision support. I don't have decision support. I guess I don't have any support making decisions. Documents. It's literally the exact same thing. View the document log. That's sort of like the worst version of that. Select files to share. Yeah. Store files, Novi. Document, mail it. Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. We can create a document. We can find a document. We can change an author profile, which if you don't have an author profile, you do have to make one. By the way, I'm just going to go ahead and fill this in real quick as an interjection. If you don't have ISPF installed and you do have OfficeVision transferred over to installed on a VM system, let me see if I find star. So here's my author profile. If you don't have ISPF, you can't create an author profile with the like the dialogues. And here's what it is. It is literally a DCF script, like, I don't know what you'd call this, template. It's basically like stuff that runs before to define a bunch of symbols for DCF script. So that's what that is. But otherwise, Office 2 is as normal as Office 1. Tools, file manager, yeah, good stuff. It's really just a file list. Use a calculator. Believe it or not, it actually does work. And normal OfficeVision does not have this calculator. Local applications, I never added anything, so it doesn't actually do anything, but I did add a regular OfficeVision, so you can run that indefinitely, by the way. Database access, I don't have this working. Alright, personal services. We want to process calendars. This, of course, is the lame calendar. But we're going to start back on the 12th, and we are going to print 7 days of the calendar. We want to send this to system at OS2 SMP6. Remember, if I come over here to RSCS, I don't think this is RSCS. This is VTAM, which I don't need. Normally I don't use Vista TN3270. I don't know why I'm using it now. That's like sacrilege. I normally use PCOM. I'm not dunking on Tom Brennan. He makes a wonderful program, but I prefer PCOM. All right. RSCSQ OS2 SMP6. We already saw this, but this is the printer, and I'm going to send this print job. Yes, there you go. I spun the mic around. I don't know how my mic processor affected that audio. I would imagine that probably kind of butchered it, and it spit out a dummy page. But you can't see what I'm holding in my hand right now, but it is my schedule, and it came out on the printer. And it did that because I'm using a network printer that I have defined on that Windows NT machine, which itself is like a LPR type printer, and it comes out of my laser printer. So it's pretty neat stuff, and I'm actually reasonably surprised that it works. And it's not the most advanced thing in the world, but I mean, this was cutting edge. You could absolutely use this with a locally attached printer, and that's just more power that OfficeVision has. You can print literally anything, and you can print it to your workstation. It's a virtual machine though, so I don't have a physical printer attached. If I had a physical printer, it would come out on a physical printer. And it works just like that. Though it is a little bit strange that you have to define these printers into RSCS. Someone somewhere wrote an exit for RSCS that will allow it to dynamically define LUs, and it works with VTAM to do that, to dynamically define printer LUs. Yeah, it was some crazy stuff. That ended up becoming merged into something called PSF in VM, Print Services Facility. Oh, okay, finally. All right, this machine finally decided to reboot. Okay, 700 billion years later. But there we go. I think we have a pretty neat setup going on here. We can also define a printer here, and we can do it in the exact same way. Now, we don't have native networking support for Windows, and in theory we could. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let me take a snapshot before I do this. Working. We're going to call it working. Let's define insufficient memory to run this application. Okay, sure. I guess I was running low on conventional memory. Oh, the magic of DOS. I hate it. Worst operating system I've used. I don't know why. I'm literally only using Windows 3.1 to be accurate. Any other, like, I just like getting stuff done for fun. Windows NT all the way. This sucks. All right. We are going to support. Oh, wait a second. Hold on. This is the wrong machine. Never mind. Oops. Alright, hold on a second. Let me open that back up. Alright, over here, yes. Start Windows. Network setup. We are going to have support for. Let me see if I can find it here. 100% MSNet compatible, which is actually the one we want. So hit OK. Unknown DOS error. Maybe I need to insert the CD. Oh well, we better abort that. We better cancel this before we break something. We'll just do it the old-fashioned way. So remember, it's just like the same thing, right? So NetView NT4 ENT serve, and so I'm going to use net use LPT3 NT4 ENT serve laser. Okay, so we have the printer defined. Now at this point I can just directly transmit plain text to the printer and it will come out because my laser printer can render plain text. But we're going to go into Windows and actually legitimately define a printer. So to do that, main, control panel, printers, setup, we're going to add a, let's see, how about HP LaserJet 4 PostScript? Oh, looks like we only have 3. That's okay. Okay, hold on a second. I gotta find the CD. Alright. I got it this time. Okay, there we go. Alright, so we have a... How did I specify this on the wrong port? Local port not present. Yeah, sure. I assure you it will work. Alright, and from mail... This cursor is so jumpy, it is unreal. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the password. Alright, so we have our business report or whatever. I don't guess we're gonna get the most up-to-date entry on this list, as I'm not surprised. We can print this on the correct printer, please. Use HP LaserJet 3. And there it comes. So hopefully this will come out. It's beautiful. It's so good looking. It's like PostScript and well, there you go. I mean, you can see you can see it. It's good looking. This is good looking stuff here. So that's the magic of the electronic office of the days gone by, I guess you could say. Sadly, I don't have any printers shared on NetWare. I mean, I suppose I could fix that, but I have to install like 700 different things to add an LPR type printer into NetWare. So we are not going to be printing from this here. Yeah, work offline. I don't even know how that's useful. I don't guess it is. So I think that's going to wrap it up for here. So we will log out. Okay, well, you can't exit from DOS. It's not that easy. Control D our way out of this one. Go over here. In that session. And that's it. It's pretty simple stuff. Now, in the future, we're going to look at Lotus Notes and the magic wild world that was that amazing junk back in the day. But other than that, I'm going to say this has been enough from me. Y'all have a good one. Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your day, and if you have any questions, let me know.